Let's start from the first page of the Lakeda, the last line of the piece in Perikavi. Shemalis Hayayim, we're talking about the mile of Shavuos. Hahu va'ikram yuchad elav higdi mitzvah ha'omer v'sfirasai. So we predicated first the Homer and the Sfira. Shu inyan nichbad miyasher el ha'isirus milas ha'ikra hazeh. It puts you straightforwardly in the path of awakening to the great mila that we'll be talking about. And the ways to get to whatever this is supposed to bring you is by three ways. Aleph, be'eshir al-kavanat ha'adam avodat ha'adam. First of all, by giving straight understanding to man when he's working and toiling on the land, when he also deals with temporal realities, we have to understand the relationship between Avodas Ha'adama and Avodas Askim Azmanim and the relationship to Esek HaTorah. So you have to have a good hashkafa there. That's number one. Now we're going to discuss this. This we find in Parshas Ha'omer, as it says, Ki Savaya la'orzuk satim k'tzir v'gomer, and he's going to explain that. Also to make a straight avenue path of having a great will, desire, and aspirations, which should be happening for people who are Isaac in this Torah venture, more than anything else. Miyetra Asakim. That also somehow is seen in the mitzvah Sfira. He will explain. Hagimel. Third thing which is important, Barot Shlem was Esiv Vitoro Etzla Adam. Then Mitzvah V'Karbani B'Mar Ad Machzah Shabbos. Okay, let's explain. So it starts with this. Omnam Harishonu. The first thing that we do in Sfiras Ha'omer is Leishir Anashim L'Amdam, is to straighten people and to teach them. Ki meyot she'atavot hazmaniyot hem echachiyot le'ilu ha'chaim. Although it's very clear that you need a life and a living and a pleasant life in order to exist, as is discussed in these all philosophical books. Any Baal Seichel has to come to a straight conclusion. There's no way that anybody sees we're dealing with temporal reality as an end. There only means towards an end, and the end ultimately is, as what he calls it, hashlamas hanefesh, perfecting your spiritual world or your soul reality. Ki al kain, now there's a very big yisod here. Samam avinu yitzchok tulim v'onim bevov shavitan lecha. Now, what does that mean? So there you have to explain a pasuk in Chumash. Get me a voracious. It's very interesting to notice if you look in the Chumash, you have there in the Chumash by the bracha of Yaakov and Esau. There's an interesting lashon of pasuk. I don't know if you're aware of it. It's entitled this. Yeah. Here it is. Pasuk Perik Chav Zayin. We can start there in Pasuk Chav Vav. Vayomer Elav Yitzchok Aviv Kshana v'Shokal Li Bani. Come, my child, and kiss me. The first kiss in the mikra. Vayigash, and he came close to him. Vayishaklo, and he kissed him. Vayorach Yisrael Gadav, and Yitzchok smelled the scent of his clothes, whatever that means. You can see Rashi Vayivarcheu, and he blessed him, and there's Nesnachna there. And then it's by Yomer, and he said, Re'eh, behold, Re'eh b'ni, Re'eh b'ni, Kere'ech HaSod Asher B'Yurchei Hashem. That's the Aliyah. Okay, that's the pasuk. That's Vayivarcheu. It doesn't even describe what the bracha was. We know one thing, he blessed him, and then he explained why he is royal bracha. Rashi explains, Sheniklasim Re'eh Gan Eden. So obviously he saw that he's royal bracha. Re'eh b'ni, Kere'ech HaSod. Soda means the Soda, which is somehow implies to the Gan Eden. Rashi writes this. Shenos b'reach tov is this they tapuchim kach doshu chazal. You can look at that. The Medrash also describes what's reach godav. The Medrash is reach bogdov. They smell the scent of even those Jews which are treacherous, that they're actually very close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Gemara tells the famous story, Medrash, of Yosef Meshisa. There was a renegade Hellenized Jew called Yosef Meshisa that when I'm not sure you're talking about the Greeks, the Romans, and at the moment I think it's the Romans at the time, they were afraid to go in to plunder the temple. They said, let's take one of them. So we take one of them and go into the Mikdash and take whatever you want for yourself and the rest bring for us. So he went, he took out a menorah shazah. There's the Yosef Meshisa. They saw that he's pretty good. He went in once, no Geshing Nachamo, going again. And so he says, Loidaishi Chasti is Bairi Pamachas. I'm not going to do it twice. I also have my limits. So they promised him at the end of the day this and that. They promised him the tax of the whole Judea for a year, whatever. He says, no, I also have my limits. So they put him into what's called Sus Barzel, some kind of a torturous instrument, and he died. Yotza Nishmase, and then the Medrash says, Yotza Baska V'Omar, Yosi Mishusa, the typical line found in Mishusa, Mizuma L'chayo Elam Haba, Yesh Koine Elama B'Shachas, blah, blah, etc. So this is, the Medrash says, this is Reach Boigdov, that Yitzchak Avinu had the sent up. He saw that Yaakov Avinu is such that even his Bogdim, they have something to them. It's not just there's something there. They are very connected, in whatever way it be, but there's some coherent connection between them and God, and that's why they're Roy LeBruch. Stop. Then the next Aliyah starts, it's very interesting, even the Aliyahs are cut that way, but that's all the meaningless. Then and also, Yitan L'Chalakim, Yitan L'Shemaim Mishmani Arts. What was the bracha? If it would have said, Vayivarcheyu Yiten L'Chalakim Versteich. What's meant? Yiten L'Chalakim and except for what? What was the bracha Rishonah? The bracha Rishonah, that's a davar pasha. The Balakeda will say shortly that it was for Hatzlachas HaNefesh. What was the machlekes of Yankov Esav? It wasn't about Mitshmani Arts, etc. Because we see that Esav got a nice bracha. I must say the honest truth. He got Italy, which says over there. What did he give him? It says he gave him Mishman Yod Yir Meshavecha. Where does the here? Mishman Yod Yir Meshavecha Mitel Hashemayim Imal Va'achar B'Chatichiv Zachicha Tavoy. That's not too pleasant. Va'yek Asher Tzur Fraktal Me'alecha, etc. But he did give him Mishman Yod. The Ma'aseh he gave him a gan shtikol Elamazeh. If we look to the Ma'aseh as far as the brachas of Yitzchak is concerned. That's a chaysh that Italia Roimi at the time had much more than what Judea ever had. So Vasik went the answer Machlekes, so this is already brought down in Ramban already. Machlekes was what was supposed to be the kli for the continuance of the avus of being a Merkava Elyon to bring Shechina into this world. Whether it was supposed to be Yitzchak, it was supposed to be Yaakov. I'm not learning Chumash and Rashi here. I remember what discussed it here once on the Shabbos. But let's go. This was the Shas. So the bracha is talking bracha v'ashros hanefesh. It's a minui. It was a ksav minui, empowering the person to be a merkava l'shchina, to be a person. He will be able to be av number 3. So whether it's going to be through Esav or through Yitzchak, you know, you really think when it says by Esav that he took a naira merasa, there's no namarasa in the Kohen Matan Torah. There was no such thing as namarasa. So obviously, whatever it means, it's a metaphor. Anyone who learns Rambam knows in Hilchasishus there's no such thing as Eris and Kohen Matan Torah. Yeah, it's certain. So it says that he was boiling Amaros. It means he davened without kavanah. That's what it means. I don't know what it means. I know it wasn't an Amarosa. Okay, so if the Amarosa is an Amarosa, when he said he killed somebody, he shamed somebody. You know, once you start saying that Amarosa is a marshal, it's a marshal. How do you know? Whatever it is, it seems to be the type of person that Yitzchak Avinu had no problem saying either him, or if not, I don't do anything. Lashon the Ramban is that Rivka, the only reason Rivka did this because she had been nevuah from Shem Ve'ever that he was supposed to be Yaakov was supposed to be the Mizborach, and the Ramban asked, so why didn't she tell it to Yitzchak? The Ramban said because listen, he says he would have she knew him. She loved this kid, and he knew that he would say I didn't get the nevuah. He got it. I didn't get it. So Sheval says, I won't do anything. Make history take its course. Ad kidei kach, that he wasn't willing to give the minute to Yaakov. If Hashem had said, God will arrange it on his own. L'maisa, God did arrange it on his own. That was the story of Rivka, but that was L'maisa a machlaikas. Esav held Adasuf. Yitzchak held out that the person I want that should be take the avos further is the heilige Vetter Esav. Like Kumtais. So what was the machlokes? Vayvarchei was atzlachas hanefesh. So what's the vav yitin lecha? Oichet, because even if you want atzlachas hanefesh or parnasa, you have to be able to eat, sleep, and whatever it be. You have to function. You have to have a world. We do live in a world of teva, and that's what the Balakeda writes. So the Balakeda, that's the v'yitcha, and also yitin lecha lukim etal l'shemayim mishmani haaretz. Okay. So when you say v'yitnu l'chem, it's a Shabbos, you have to understand. The bracha you got from Shabbos. Now, by the way, you want more. The bracha is better than Shabbos. It does have a state does Dr. Balakeda. Again, in the fourth line, Al-Kain Samar Avinu Yitzchak Tluim V'Aindim B'Vav Shel V'yitnu l'cha. Therefore, he left them hanging with a vav, and that means the auxiliary, and also yitnu l'chem v'goymer. They are tfafel, they're secondary to his brachas. Lo ikar, they're not the principal bracha at all, adrabah, but rather, Nizbayer, it seems to be clear, he berubam kain yosifu lachti. The more you have this yitn l'chor, the more you'll end up missing the mark, what we call sinning. Lachti doesn't have to mean to sin, it can also mean to miss the mark. Chote el matara. Chet also means empty. So you're empty, misguided, misled, and also sin. There are different usages of the word here. You will miss the mark of God's intent. Therefore, it's not healthy to have too much of this. He points out where he elaborates on this idea. This goes into something which you touched on a bit today. If the Torah did mention Dafke, only schar mitzvah in this world, the only thing we know is b'chukoisai. The only thing we know is the brachas of Gashmias. We have Yitna Chavayim Shemaya. We have Pashat b'chukoisai. We have many things. The brachas are only in Gashmias. So the Chayber one would say, hey, maybe that's the sachar. Im heyois, he says that the Torah yeda oisem Torah lokis b'schar mitzvah. Torah did set it aside to be the schar mitzvah with Olam Agashmi. He says, Mikal Makom, lo liyatam yikar schar malachta chalil. Chalil, to think this would be the principal reward or payment, actually be more specific, for this service. Rak liyot ha'ra'as amita shlemusa la'ilam, hanelam ki anigla yoyed olav. And what this is for? The atava begashmis, it then said, wow, and this is nothing compared to what's coming. It's a preview. This is going to show you, look what God gives you here in this little world. Can you imagine what's going to happen further? That's how he writes this. Again, it's an very interesting idea. So he says, Rak liyos hayroas amita shleimusa la'olam hanelam ki anigla yoydelav k'moshev pasha b'chukoyse, and there he explains it. That's number one. So one reason for schar begashmis is to imagine, it's very simple. Here you experience that. You have no clue of what Olam Haba is, okay? But you see the pleasure from Olam Haba, and this is a mashal to something we typists. It's your language. Mashal amad davardem, like the Rambam describes in the book that we saw today. You know, you want to talk about schar to a little kid, you talk about candies. Egoism. You want to talk a little older, you talk about a nice place. He says clothes. A little more, you think about a car. A little more, you think covered guy with PhD. I don't know what. Okay, so every stage in life you have another thing which is important to you. And what we're saying here is I'm going to give you things which are important to you. Understand this is garnish compared to what's happening, but this is the mashal. Okay, so he's giving things which are important to people here. That's number one. Then he says, Gam ki mishleimuta u shelo yichaser bakol, ki ikar sachar shleimut adam nitzchut nafsho. Amnam yimshechu mimenu al tzad hayoter tov elu yanim achitzonim. It's very clear. No, once again, schar mitzvah shouldn't be lacking anything. So he give you just nefesh without kuf is a chisor. And since God's a tava is a tava b'shleimus, therefore the ikar he wants to give you is atzlachas hanefesh. But bad with that also comes atzlachas hanefesh b'toich haguf. But once again, it's a schlepper, it's a tafel, it's not the ikar, that's the nekud. So therefore there's two things here. One, to be made ala taiva shetava. B, because shleimusa shakadosh baruch Hu is going to give you a whole taiva. Why should he give you bad here if it's going to give you good there? He'll give you good here too. So again, mishleimusa shelo yichaser b'kol ikar aschar hu shleimus adam v'nitzchus nafshay. Omnam yimshcha mimena latzad yosher tavela inyan machitzon shem le'ezer ulahayil el ikra kavan. They are not just, by the way, good, they're also helpful, auxiliary for you to attain ikra kavan. This is something we all know, that the Olam Hagashmi is here, and you get all this abundance of health, prosperity, in order to facilitate the growth and spiritual growth. That's what he writes. What does it mean, So, let's say about that, we'll go further. And the klal is always, every time when you talk about right and left in the mikra, you're talking about primary active versus auxiliary. The mikra is a right-handed divorce. No reflection on lefties. I personally have 6 children, right, left, right, left, right, left. So, we're equal here. Okay, mamish, that's the way it works. Right, left, right, left, right, left. So no bias. Okay, Avos Kenachtan, Kadosh Baruch was a righty. As I come to from the Mikra, Arich Yom Be'eshki, Miyaminoi Eish Das Lomai. Av Yodi Tipcha Oretz, so Chazal says Yad Stam Yad means Yad Yamin. That's Rashi B'Makom, it's also in Medrash. So we understand what the idea of right hand, left hand, what does this mean? So he was a righty, like myself. Righty, the right hand, did you ever box? An MTA, a boxing team. You're over Chavala. Okay, so Lamaisa, so you're not going to Chavala. You're going into Mazik Bershus, but Yosef is not just in Mazik, it's Chaval. Maimar Muzger. But that also goes with tackle football. V'chulu. Problem. Okay, and he's not a balabas to be moichel. It's a big problem. But not going there, but it's a problem. Okay, the person wrote a great article on this, by the way, is Reb Shem Yosef Zevin in his book L'Or Halacha. He has a great article on the contract in the Merchant of Venice. You really don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to die. Okay, did you ever hear good old Shylock? I'm not sure. Whatever. What happens if you made you want a pound of flesh? If you pay me in time, Bakshef, now you have to give me a pound of flesh out of your busser. Is that a contract? Can you make his chayvis to be chavala in yourself to cut out a pound of flesh? Does that hold? The Maisi he's marked. The other man has no right to do it. Now, look, he's not a bailam on his goof. Therefore, there's no mechila. Mainly, these chayvis and his chayvis, and the contract was no involved. Void, and the Shalak was all off. Okay, but okay, now we know. So, Jews don't agree with the Shylock image. Okay, if you know your history, you understand that's a loaded sentence. Getting back to here, so what was I just doing? I didn't know what I was doing. Okay, what?
Left and right.
Oh yeah, so left and right means as follows. When you box off. When you box, okay, you don't know how to box, I'm telling you to box. You pick up, you hold your left hand and you're protective. And you jab with your right. That's how it works, okay? Your left hand is here, and every so often you go on the side with it. But when you want to, your attack is with the right hand. The klal is, Yad Yamin is the payil, and Yad Shmel is the ezer. It's the auxiliary, it helps. You pick up things, you'll notice. You put your major force in the right hand, and the other will help you balance it, or something like that. The klal is, that's why Yamin is called chesed, and Smile is called gvura. It gives form, it helps, it constricts. It's not the thrust of energy, it already gives form to the energy. It's a secondary reality. The basic thrust of energy is called Yamin. It's also found in the Mikra as primary versus secondary. Okay, primary active versus auxiliary. So when we say miyaminoi eshta, when we say oirich yamin biyaminoi, what does it mean over here? God's right hand, God's left hand. Oirich yamin is the idea of yom shekulei oruch, endless time equals olam haneshamas. Okay, oirich yamin means having days without karev yom shelo yom v'lo laila, etc. You must have said that in Haggadah Shel Pesach if you knew what it was talking about. Okay. That olam haba, which means different versions going different Rishonim. We're going to leave that. Whatever, that's Hatzlachas HaNefesh. Orech Yamim B'Yamino. That's the primary Matana B'Kadosh Baruch Hu. B'Smailai, the secondary, that which is auxiliary, helpful, etc. Oisher V'Kavod. So Oisher V'Kavod is given beyond smile. Not, it's a guy's giving you a present with his right hand and with his left hand. I mean, if a person gives you with their left hand, you feel awkward about it. But the text is giving with both. So the primary is Orech Yamim, and the smile, that's what he writes there. So he says, Ki Orech Yamim L'Olam Shekulei Tayv. Orech Yamim alludes to the Olam Shekulei Tayv, where there's what Kulei Tayv, that's an allusion to the Gemara that we mentioned already in the end of the third Perek of Psachim, where it says, B'yema hu yi Hashem echad u'shmai echad, that ha'idna lav echadu today ala toiv aimer toiv ametiv ala ra aimer dynamis la'asid lavi, that's v'hoya b'yemahu, it'll be kulai ha'toiv ametiv. That means Hashem chadu shmoi echad. Hashem echad means to say there's one God. You won't have a God of dynamis versus toiv ametiv. It'll be kulai toiv. Kulai toiv ametiv. You'll understand history and whatever it only be. So this is what it's called. So Orech Yamim L'Olam Shekulei Tayv V'Orech Hu HaMechuvim Mimenu B'Etzem HaRishona. This is the primary reason what you're supposed to be getting with mitzvahs. Ki Al Ken Yiches Otam Al Yamin. That's why God wants you to attain the higher level of awareness of Olam Shekulei Tayv. That's why it's called Yamin. Why? Shu Atzadi Yiter Atzmi La'Adam. We're talking about this, the organ between the two hands, which expresses the essential man equals active persona. That's the right hand. That's the beginning of his movement, once again as a righty. Primary tool of creativity and etc. is the right hand. Although most people think that Oisher covered are very important, and you run after these imaginary temporal acquisitions. Sees this El HaSmile, it's only left, Loma, this means to say, they are needed. We're not living in the midbar. You need them. Very interesting language. They actually auxiliary, they help, and they make it easier. Just as the left hand helps an auxiliary to the right. That's what we expect from people. We expect the tzedakah and nefesh. We expect the focus on the right. We don't expect them to spend time too much on what we call the left. Umar, this is another pasuk of Kalas. When Rishon, you see, understand how they understand. Leiv chacham yamine v'leiv ksil l'shmoilei. First of all, for goodness sakes, the heart is not in the right; it's in the left. It's actually in the center with a slight swerve at the bottom towards the left. But second of all, I never saw anybody with the right on the heart on the right side. He'd be dead. Okay. And by the way, nothing on the left side either. He'd also be dead. It's not. It's what's meant the pasuk. So Naniach Shlomo Melech thought it wasn't the left. He never opened up a body. How would he know? They didn't open up until very late. That we're talking about 1500s were the first autopsies that we are recorded. So let me just tell you, Chazal never opened up a body. Okay? So, but it was meant us. So it's very clear. It doesn't mean the heart to the right. The heart doesn't change. You become a chacham, your heart moves to the right. You become a sukkah. I can see some saying, Chazal, and that's what it should be. Whoever doesn't do this, not because him and Slifkin and whatever else. Okay? Yeah, they'll print it in the book, black cover. Okay? Now, this is not Ushkai. It's very simple. It means saying, where is your focus? What's the life? Let's be honest. What is the heart? Heart's a muscle. Why do you say that, even in imagery of the Western world, Cupid shoots arrows into your heart. If you had a broken heart, you'd be dead. Isn't it counted? There's nothing more full. End of our shalem, we live shabur. Did you ever hear that cliche? Sending a left in a Valentine card. If you had to live shabur, you'd be dead. Okay? And if Cupid shot arrows in your heart, you wouldn't make it. You'd say, and it'd be over. So, was meint this? When we use the metaphor of heart, what do we mean? Let's understand carefully. So, the truth of the matter is, until not that long ago, during the times of Chazal, they were convinced that the feelings actually were in the heart. They thought almost like the nervous system, that's in the heart, and they divide the heart from that was very clear. They thought. They also thought the kidneys give advice. Well, maybe they do, but I have a friend that gave away a kidney and he's still smart. Okay, so obviously, I have no problem of thinking that they were, is it just a mashal? Well, why didn't it say toenails? No, it's not just a mashal, because that was acceptable anatomy at the time. They reflected the anatomy at the time, that's a davar pashut. Okay, that's why you can see that if you learn Gemara, you can see in Nida, you'll see their understanding of female anatomy does not reflect the body the way anybody knows it. The Chassam Sofer was bothered by that. So Chassam Sofer Nida, he says, yeah, you know what? Maybe the only people we know are not like Chazal, because we opened up a bunch of goyim. They eat nevelas and treifas, so their body changes. But Jews, you see, that's what Chazal say. Well, we've opened up Jews since then, and Lav Dafka Ichlin, Nevelas and treifas, and they're still the same body. So that Chassam Sofer is nice. At the end of the day, it's very simple. Chazal's understanding of anatomy at the time was based on Galenian anatomy at the time, which was classical Greek anatomy, which ruled this world for hundreds and hundreds of years. So that's what they understood too. We don't expect them to have a Kabbalah Misinai, what anatomy is supposed to look like. Okay, Lo Matzanu Kahaygan. Ufchein, that was a Maimer Hamuzka, but it carries a lot of weight. Ufchein, so if that's the case, what's meant is when we say, when we're talking about Lev Chacham, they mean Lev Chacham, so what are we really talking about? So the heart is not, today we know the heart is, well, then there was emotion. So today we can translate the same, so does that mean to make this obsolete? No, it means that's the idea, but actually the metaphor doesn't have to be anything anymore, okay? You can simply say, when I say today, oh, my heart is broken, what do I mean? My emotions are ruptured, could be. Yeah, but the emotions have to do with the heart today. Well, the only indication of the heart at all is the pump, because when you're very focused, nervous, okay, you need more oxygen to your brain. Your organs need more oxygen. That's why your pulse actually races when you're focused or when you're excited, because you do need more oxygen for you to function. So once again, it's indicative of excitement, focus. As opposed to seeing that's the source of excitement and focus, leiv mevin, the heart's hotish kenavana. It's a bump, you know what I mean? What happens if we're going to give it an implanted, transplant a heart from some peasant, you get a different havana. Let's understand. Levava yavim v'shavarafal. It's a pasuk in Navi, right? Tetz is once again, it means to say, it means an emotional, it means not just cerebral knowledge, it means emotional intelligence. And that's expressed in the heart. Why? Because during times of Chazal, we thought that emotions were in the heart. Today, we can say the same thing. Emotions, where are they? They all lie in the nervous system. They're expressed. Definitely, one of the major places of expression is the heart, because as I said before, you need more oxygen to pump when you're very excited, when your pulse races. It's very similar to what the Tanya writes, that the Makam Mishkan Nefesh, or the Pasuk writes, Ki Adam hu nefesh. The nefesh is in the blood. What's meant the nefesh is in the blood? Nefesh doesn't take space. So how can you say it's in the blood? It doesn't take space. It doesn't have space. It's not a spatial entity. What does it mean it's in? You're saying in, you're talking a spatial entity. It's not there. What does it mean that the nefesh al-kis is in the moyach? It takes space? It's contained? What does it mean? If it's not matter, it doesn't have dimensions, it's not contained. What does the sentence mean when you say the nefesh al-kis is in the moyach? This is Tanya in Perek Gimel, Perek Beis. And nefesh bahamis, your experiential soul, is in your leiv. Chol hasmol, shehu malei dam. Okay, vas meintas. It's once again very simple. It means that is the primary place of expression. For example, what's the primary expression? If we talk about nefesh, nefesh means that aspect of soul, which is basic, you are living organic matter, okay? What expresses the fact that you're alive is the fact that there's a constant rejuvenation of the souls via the constant flow of nutrients, which that is what the bloodstream is. And that's what shvichas damim means to say, I've stopped the flow of nutrients, therefore there's no rejuvenation of the cells, and you're no more alive. Live means constant rejuvenation of the cell system through constant flow of nutrients. That's what we call death, shvichas damim. Even if I choke you, I also call it shvichas damim. Didn't pour the blood out. It means that I made the blood obsolete. Until now it was a river of life. Now it becomes just a bunch of red liquid. Guk. That's all it is. So that's the idea of shvichas dam. Pouring out its meaning, its purposes, that's really what it means. So you're talking about, when we talk about these ideas, so you have to understand. So the heart means excitement, focus. So leiv chacham liyamino. What is the excitement, the focus of the chacham? Liyamino, to those things which are primary in life. Leiv ksil, the fool, what does he get focused and excited about? Lishmalo, to those things which are secondary in life. And that's how the Balakeda explains it. Read it inside. So means his focus, his emotion. Even when he does, and he's in business, and he does try to have these temporal acquisitions, what's it for? He has a purpose for it. We use it to get to the end of days. For who this is typically Rambamistic, that the end of days means according to Rambam means the Shama Shaloi Begufim. We will see this in Mitzvah when you learn the Chelik. Shitz Rambam is that the end of days is the Shama's Beli Gufim. The Gufim is a period of time, but that's all over. He believes that Tchias HaMesim is a one-time occurrence, and afterwards everybody dies and the world stops and we all go. This whole world is like a Penn Station waiting room to get your act done, and then Olam HaGmul is Neshamas B'li Gufim. That's Shittas Rambam. That's what it is, the Maaseh. That's why you think that Tchias HaMesim is a one-time thing, only to give Sechar to the Gufim, because the Gufim were facilitators of the soul getting where it gets. So you get Sechar the Guf. What happens in Tchias HaMesim? You Chayim Aruchim. You live a long life. How much is a long life? He doesn't say the Rambam. You live a long life. Let's take the maximum life that we know about the Chazal. Adam Arishon was supposed to have 1,000 years. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't say, so it's very. I can't make these things up. A long life, okay? You'll live a healthy, long life, and then the body goes, and then the soul is free. You go up to the great academy, and that's That's the end. That's where everything ends. That's what he's alluding to. Hatzlachas hanefesh. That's Das Rambam. So that's what this man is waiting for. He wants to get the ultimate goal of Hasaga and Havana. And according to Rambam, the ultimate goal of Hasaga and Havana cannot happen. Kol Shatachai. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told to Moshe when he asked him, "Already knows Drachacha." He answered to him, "Lo Yirani Adam Vachai." So the Rambam read somewhere in the Vuchim. It means to say you can't be a living entity of nefesh but guf and be a kli for that Havana v'Hasaga. Walk away from your body, join me up there, that's something else. We can talk business. Here, you're not shaykh. It's very simple. There are big filters of God body awareness, doesn't allow that to happen. So that's what, according to Shittas Rambam, the shleimus hanefesh amiti, that's neshamas without gufim. Because the gufim are a kli. So that's what he says. So basically the person, the chacham, which is mishtadel b'kinyanim azmanim, its purpose is to attain Yom Shekulei Orach, which to him means Shleimus HaAmiti. Omnam Aksil, but the fool, who epech, he lives the opposite approach. Sha'afilu k'shiyidrosh v'yatur ha'chochma ma'chochmot, even when he searches wisdom. Ein kavanato, he doesn't search the wisdom for the wisdom itself, because the wisdom is a tool for Havana v'Hasaga Yom Shekulei Orach. Ki ima mashi yagir lo yadam iteres olam hazeh. What will it give me? I'll become a rabbi. I'll get smicha. I'll get this. I'll get that. I'll be able to get a job. I'll be in the job market. I'll be covered, gaiva, whatever you're going to call it. It's all for something. The Yisayid is one thing. Leiv Chacham Yaminai, Leiv Sil L'Shmailai. The people have to understand the Ikr, the Milsa is the Tzlachas HaNefesh, and Schar Mitzvah in this world is nothing more than what? It's either a muscle to give you a strengthening of belief that there's something much more out there, and it's also a kli to facilitate, and that's the Leiv Chacham Yaminai, etc. He continues. Hinele dati soda kosav hazeh, v'tzorech ha'inyanim ha'miyuchasim el hasmal, לסיוע פעולת הימין בצורתם ותבניתן ציורו ונרשמו במזמור נכבד ומעולה Haya minaglo merobi mea sfirat. This is where we're getting to. This whole idea of the yinim and the smoil, the idea is chachma, and the gashmias is a kli for chachma. Okay, this is all alluded to in this in Perek Samach Zayin in Tihillim, which the minig has been. This is also quoted by Reb Chaim Vital and the Rekeach and the Marsha. That I remember seeing some. I didn't see it inside a Geniza letter of Haigo and say the minig of saying it during evening. It's very early. To say Lam Natseach, I'm very makbid to say Lam Natseach. Say Lam Natseach after Sfirat. Okay? No, I don't say the Shem Yuchot, I don't say the Ben Shlem. Lam Natseach Zoych. Why? Because it's old Jewish. Right. Which is the pasuk that we do? Elokim Yecharein V'Recheinu V'Gomer. It's pasuk Tefillah Samach Zayin. Shabbat Kabbalah, we have in tradition, the Balakid writes, Sha'ayam Mitzuyah B'Magen David, this was illustrated on the shield of David, this was his coat of arms. We pointed out last time that the double triangle is nothing to do with King David historically, and it has other meanings. It was so funny because this week I was teaching ladies, and this girl had a bag from India, and there you had it in the middle of all the Avodah Zarah, there was the double triangle star. I says, yeah, wow, cool. That's exactly what I was teaching Yirmiyahu a week ago. There you have it. A bunch of symbols of Avodah Zarah. I saw them there. And Ram and Dus and Jens and don't lick them. They didn't mean Jews, you understand? It meant the double triangle that I explained last I explained it to you, right? The merging of the triangles. So this is it. So he says, Shayam Mitzuyah B'Magen David, Kidmus Menaira. It was Mitzuyah on the Magen of David. It was the coat of arms of David. In the way, it looked like a menorah. Shlosheh kani menorah mitzida ha'achas. 3 branches on one side. Ve'em gimel psukim ritzufim. What it means are the 3 psukim of Elokim Yechaneinu. Go to your illustration. You should be able to see it right here. This is exactly what it is. You have the first pasuk Elokim Yechaneinu. The second pasuk is the das ba'as takecha. And the third pasuk is Yidu Cham Elokim Yidu Cham Kula. He then says, he goes further, V'shlosheh kanim menorah mitzida hasheni, and on the other side, another 3 kanim menorah. V'heim, what are they? Well, going again after the middle kana, Yidu Cham Elokim, Ertnos Yivuli V'chinu Elokim Elokeinu. V'lekana emtzai, pasuk Yitziranu V'lumim ha'omeid be'emtza. So let's just look at this carefully, get the picture of what this is. Okay, so you have in front of you, I want to read him inside because I think it's important to see him. I can tell to you orally, but okay. What you have is as follows. I think I explained that I'm not sure if I explained that. I explained the word Lam is Mashir. I explained it. Then I explained. So we know that Lam Natzech is not the poem. Lam Natzech is just a direction to the choir master. And we know that Mizmor Shir, we pointed out, the Niginot is the solo, the Kli, it's one of the Kelim button Tihillim, Niginot. Okay, the Gemara describes number 8 Kelim, one of them is Niginot. Okay, and Mizmor Shir I described as a tempo of Mizmor is from the idea of awe, walking away, and Shir is very much drawing to. Shir Hashirim is the story of drawing to. Mizmor is from the word zomer. Zomer is of Melch and Shabbos, to prune. To cut, you grow by cutting back. Okay? It means to say there's a dual theme in all these Mizmor Shirs. If you look very carefully, you'll find it. I pointed out to someone today. Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shabbos, very typical, what you have there. Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shabbos is an unbelievable. Do you ever notice what you're saying there? Like, let's get to a Shabbos. It's all about the idea that Tzaddik v'Rale, Rosh v'Toivle will come to an end, and Mitzvim it'll all be Tzaddik v'Toivle, and Rishos will not exist. What's the attachment of good Shabbos? There Shabbos is Mizmor Shir L'Yom Sunday. What's up is Shabbos? The teretz is pashut because Shabbos is brought down in Shiltus is clearly the base. It's the Chanukah, the base of the Bria. So you're supposed to thank God for the Bria, but there's a problem. Science is beautiful, but history stinks. There's so much rishis and pain in the world. You ask, this is the world you made? So you say, yes, Tov L'Hidus L'Hashem, L'Zamer L'Shimcha Elyon. Yeah, I can thank you, and I stand in awe of you, right? Why? L'Hagid B'Boker Chasdecha. I declare your chasadim when I understand things. That's B'Boker. Ve'emunascha baleilos, when things are not clear, that's what I don't declare my understanding, but I declare my faith. It's nice what you're saying. There's Tov HaMeitiv and there's Dayan HaEmes. It's like the Gemara says, Kol mi shelo em b'yatziv v'nochen boiker, shachris, emes ve'emuna, arvis lo yotzid eichei v'osoi. What's meant? This perek in Tehillim. If you're not capable of affirming faith when it's clear, and you're not capable of accepting blind faith, not understanding, but not believing when things are not clear, then you haven't, that's not the total picture of your Yiddishkeit. Yiddishkeit demands both Yatziv v'Nachen and Emes ve'Amuna. That's a Davar Pasha. So that's the idea. This is by the way, that's a German rabbi's Pirush, yeah. You learn German from those words. Sometimes they have these 6-syllable words, I figure what they mean. Yeah. So what you're saying here is, you're saying, Tov L'Hashem. Why is it good? Why? Because the Alei Asel Novel, and I will do this with different musical instruments. Why? I'm very happy with what you did. How can you be happy? You only have faith. The answer is because I realize that people are fools that don't understand it. What did we say over there? Ish bar lo yeda uksila avinazot b'fruach rishon kmo Yosef v'yatzitzu kol poilei of. And we know that evil is rampant and all over like crabgrass, man. It's endless. Yeah, you're not worried about that. Why? Li shamdam adayad. They grow in order to fall. You already see the future. Okay, I'm sitting now and saying now it's terrible, but I know clearly if you're an idiot, not the chap, this is all going up, and as soon as it gets to its peak, it tanks. That's what it's for. Li shamdam adayad vata maroim la'ilam Hashem kinei v'ech Hashem. I go on and on. Now, that's why it's good to be happy with the world. That's why you say, so what's that theme? The theme is saying, on one hand, hey, it's really terrible, but you know what? I really think you're with me. Okay, again, you have the dual theme of a mizmor and a shir. You have closeness, you have a sense of, oh boy, we're close, and then in the meantime, I'm quite far. It's awe, but I believe you have the idea, you have the emunah. Same thing. I'm just showing you many examples. Should I tell you other ones? Mr. Shechanu explains to David, figure that one out tomorrow morning. Oh, you don't do this. I forgot. You're in the wrong nusach. If you would, you'd figure it out too. There, it's also the same thing. I've had terrible things, and God rose and made it happy for me. If you look at, you don't have Ashkenaz. Well, if you would, you'd know the kapitel, and you'd figure it out too. It can go on and on. That's the theme. So we're talking about Lamna Mizmor Shir. Now, what's the psukim? Now, look at the structure of the psukim. It's really awkward. If you look, maybe it's better to see it in here. If you have on this page, you have pens maybe just to write down numbers. You take number 1 on the word on the first pasuk, which is Elokim. The second pasuk is 2, Ladas. The third pasuk is Yeducha. The fourth pasuk is Yismachu. The fifth pasuk is Yeducha. The sixth pasuk is Eretz Nasa Yevula. And the seventh pasuk is Yivachenu Akim Elokeinu. Those are the psukim. Now, if I suggest you look in front of this and see this, you'll understand something. You'll notice that one pasuk is repeated twice. You'll notice that pasuk number 3 and pasuk number 5 are identical. Now, what does that allude to usually? Do you know anything about literary structure? Did you ever hear about chiastic structure? A, B, C, D, and then backwards, right? D, C, etc., right? It's two ideas ending with the same theme, converging on each other. That's what you call a chiastic structure, right? A, B, C, C, B, A. We together? We understand each other? Okay, that's what you call a chiastic structure. Well, this is a period with a chiastic structure. They end, two things end at the same thing. They converge on a middle stem. And look, it's exactly what's happening. You have one mini poem of 3 on the right side, ending with Yeducha. You have a poem on the left side, ending with Yeducha. And the merging theme is the big pasuk of Yismachur an Elohim ki tishpot amim misho ulumim ba'arta chem salam. That's simply when they tell you this was written in a structure of a Magen David on the King David. It's not just alluding to the menorah in the temple. It's actually, forget the word menorah, don't think menorah, think of structure of the peri. This is A, B, C, C, B, E. Hey, that's what this is. The only difference is between the two C's, there's a middle stem in which they both converge on. That's what this really is. So it really is, in a literary fashion, this is taka, two prayers of 3 psukim each, which end with a mutual theme, converge together in one big theme. Now, if you want to talk Kabbalah, you should know this is Batan. I think the Kalkeda says it too, but I know it from other places where it's in Chanam. We all know that there are 7 psukim, and the Sachakol, there are 49 words. Okay? And that's why every day of the Sphira is parallel to another word. If you look carefully in the list of the Sphira's Homer list, every day you focus on another word in the Mizrah. If you just look here on the first day of the Homer, you add that. It said Elokim. The second day was Yechanenu. Look at it over there, and then every day. But you also know that the middle theme has 49 letters. The middle theme has 49 letters. That's because, although it's written Chaser, but Kitishpoit Mishor, the 2 Choylims there, which are Malay, it comes out to be 49 letters. And the 49 letters, every day you focus on another letter of that pasuk. If you look once again at your list, you'll see it. The first day was Yis, Meh, etc. It goes on. So you're talking about this, the idea, we look at Sfiras Homer very much enmeshed and entangled into the idea of every day, another part of this prayer, and it all merges to one major theme. So let's just look, before we go further, on the major theme, and then we'll try to understand what the 2 prayers are. It's really interesting. What's the major theme? We'll look at it. The major theme is what? Yismachu v'rannu lu'umim. Let the world, nations, be happy and rejoice. Renana is milabar, another statement in Gemara. Simcha is milagav, and renana is milabar. Simcha is internal. Renana is external expression of. There's no din of renanas yom tov. There's din of simchas yom tov. That's why the Rambam writes, the only place there was an idea of rikud and tipuach was only in Sukkot, only in the Beis HaMikdash, and only the Chizkein Van Shemaisa. The other people, they were just the audience. Okay? As we don't have a din of simchas yom tov of expressing emotions, we have a mitzvah of generating emotions. Simcha pnimis, the idea of expression, and just skein Van Shemaisa and doni lifnei Hashem b'suloi. We're going to learn that a little later when we learn on the B'kayach, where Rav Kook elaborates on this idea. But here we have an Renana, as you run not say you are, that's an external expression. That is found in Sukkot and the Mikdash. So Yismachu v'Renanu lumim, there'll be internal simcha, happiness, which means a sense of contentment and fulfillment, by the way. That's what we may as well define the term. Happiness means a sense of contentment and fulfillment. Okay, that's when you're happy with something, you feel content. Okay? Viranu lu'umim, we're not talking about the Jews, we're talking about the nations. Why? Why will they be happy? Ki tishpot amim mishu. Or because you judge them straightforwardly. In other words, they now chap what you decide your decisions were. Ulumim ba'aretz tanchem, now they realize you actually lead the nations. Leiv sarmam lochem biyad Hashem, that's a pasuk. And that's what we're saying. They now realize that history was not haphazard. We now realize that, you know something, you really are leading and you read wisely. That's the ultimate goal of the Simcha. The Simcha is not, it's not a Jewish capital, it's a universal capital, very reminiscent of the Tfilah of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. We're talking about that people should recognize the Malchus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which was the Tfilah of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. We should focus on Jews in Shemoneh Esrei. If you look at it, you focus on the world, which is very interesting. Not the world where they'll kill each other, not, that's another topic, but their religious awareness and their God awareness. That's what we're looking for. We want to that's what we're looking for. So we're basically saying something interesting. We're saying we don't just want awareness, we want them to be happy. In other words, we want a sense of contentment, of happiness. They really chap the anhag of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how everything is toiv v'ameitiv. In other words, we're not just saying we want to get to it, everything is toiv v'ameitiv. We want the world to recognize the toiv v'ameitiv. That's the major theme of this. If you understand the structure, so you understand what this is. Let me say this about Peh, just to show you how this works, and I want to see it inside. Look at the first pasuk. It's Elokim Yechanenu V'Yivarchenu. Chanina means to say what? Chanina is basically chen, means matan schina. V'Yivarchenu, well, you all know what bracha is. Oh, I'll do it in a nutshell, but it's a famous Shuvas Rashba and a Sefer Chinuch and Parshas Eikev. Reb Chaim Volozhin already mentions it in Nefesh Chaim, but the truth of the matter is the Rashba is much more bar chava, and the Chinuch is worth seeing. And V'Chaltas V'Ot V'Rachta, and also Rabbeinu B'chai in his book Kada Kemach, on brachas and Birchas Hamazon. Mamish Kedai to see. Bracha basically means what? When you make a bracha to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or when you're asking a bracha, what does this mean? Well, we know that, they bring the famous Gemara that Bishmael ben Elisha, Bishmael Kohen Gadol went into the Kodesh HaKadosh and he had some kind of a vision, a vision, and God told him, Yishmael b'ni barcheni, bless me. So what did he say? He gave him a list. You know, I'm asking for a bracha and you're asking for a bakash. For saying, I need a bracha. And he's like, first give a pidyon. That's what it looked like. And he says, okay, you'll give me a pidyon, I'll give you a bracha. So first he says, that's what it means. Where's the bracha? So Reb Chaim explains, and this is what the Yisraelim explain. Bracha means what? You're not blessing. What does blessing mean? You're praying for God. To who? God needs something. What's meant is you're blessing God. So Ted says you're not blessing. It's a bad translation. It doesn't mean that. Bracha means to say for chinuch reizim lashon brecha, a lashon of a pool. It's also lashon toisefes v'ribui, multitudes, abundance. It means to say that first of all, bracha is a statement. It's not a bakasha. It's a statement. Baruch atah is a statement. You are Baruch. You are the shorish kol bracha. You're the big pool of abundance. And the Chinuch says that once a person is makir, that he basically is totally subservient, and the pool of abundance comes only from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, then it's just like water goes to a makom namuch, then also you become a kli to accept that abundance. So Baruch Atah is not a blessing, not a prayer, not a shvach, not a doy, it's a statement. Baruch Atah, you are. But there's another thing, I think I once mentioned, Rav Volbeck, she speaks about this, and I remember once in Ali Shulch, Ali Beis, which is good to see, by the way. It's a good perik on bracha. I'm quite of my separation, but I remember it. I only remember 3 prakim there. That's all I read. One on Frumkeit, one on bracha, and one on Liman Amusha. Anyway, so the idea is also, this is the Rashba, but the idea is bracha means that pour forth about yourself. The ultimate abundance is wisdom. It means sheyir baha korah. There should be more awareness of you. Rav Hutner once said it also comes from the lashon of bracha and lashon berach, the joint of the knee. The knee is that which brings people down and brings people up. Okay, the idea is it's like bend down to us, come down to us. That's what it means. Baruch atah, you should be the pool or the bending down to us. In other words, it means sheyir ba'akar. There should be more understanding and awareness that you are shakol niyabed vara. You drink a glass of water. You don't just drink a glass of water. In the glass of water, you realize a request that God, I want more awareness that you are the creator of all with your will and your will, what you're saying. When I eat an apple, I don't just want to eat an apple. I say, God, I want more understanding of God who expressed himself in fruit. When I see an apple, it's a request for God awareness. This is basically what Baruch is. So that's what it says. Reb Chaim says. He says Yishmael b'ni barcheni. So what did he ask? He had a request for more shefa eloki with anagas achesed. That's what Yishmael b'ni barcheni. What did he say? Yiratzon shigol rachmecha midusecha v'snai yivan afnim yishurz dinecha. That exactly. That's the key of bracha. It's a bakasha for gilui shifas chazdoi. That Master Reb Chaim says that's the Agdor of bracha. A bracha is actually requesting more godliness, more hanhaga, more chesed. That's what bracha is. So when we say Elokim Yechanenu V'Yavachenu, it means there should be the ultimate awareness, a ribui of bracha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. Now, which bracha doesn't say? So what is stam bracha? What is stam bracha? When you say bracha, what is stam bracha? So once again, this is what the Balakeda says, taking back to the pasuk by Yaakov in Parshas Tol, they say Vayivarcheu stam. What does it mean? It's atzlachas hanefesh. Stam bracha. When God's giving Himself, that's what it means. The ultimate giving of God is giving Himself. What's the ultimate giving of God of himself? It's called, as I pointed out on Shabbos, like more on Shabbos, Anoichi is a Rosh Tevis, Anon Nafshikas Avteiv. I wrote myself in a book and I gave myself to you. Give yourself to us. It means say understanding. It means chachma. It means atzlachas hanefesh through a chachma and hasaga. And this is mamish what you say, because when you continue, you say, Yo'er panav itanu selo. What does that mean? Well, first of all, translate the words. You should shine your countenance upon us. What does that mean? I always remember the first time I was in Rome, this was in the summer of, it was in August, 67 or 68, I was in Rome by the Vatican, and the first time I ever saw the place, I went there to buy a hat. It was a good place, for $10, it was a Borsellino hat in those days, the guy's street name was Dita Luzzi, I remember, in the store, okay? So I went to see St. Pete's for, what you can, what you can't, you can't. So what you can, you want to see. So I see, they have, around the square, anybody ever been there? Around the square of St. Pete's, so there's the statues of all the Motzei de la Torah, of all the saints, all the tzaddikim. They have a lot of tzaddikim, okay? We have a Guna Tzaddik. They also have a Guna Tzaddik. Tzaddik Jerome, Tzaddik this, they have Tzaddikim. Okay. And I was looking, it's so funny, they all have plates on top of their heads. And I didn't understand. Why are they wearing plates? Why do they have plates on their heads? And I chapped. First time you don't chap, you understand what it is. It's very simple. It's a halo. Now, how are you going to make a halo in a sculpture? You can't exactly hang. So there's two possibilities, friends. Some of them have sticks in the back, and the halo is higher. And some of them, they put a plate on the head. It's very simple. That's, the halo is, right? A halo, right? Okay, so there's a halo. There's light hovering above the head, which in Chassidus is called Or HaSoviv. It means to say it's an enlightenment which is not internalized, but it's an enlightenment which hovers above you, influences you, but it's not internalized in you. This is Mamish, Zohar Kodesh describes this idea. What's interesting, so in Christian art, the saint has a halo. Okay, by the Jews it doesn't work that way. We have another concept. We have Koran or Panav, which Nebuch, what can I tell you, Achmunus, Michelangelo thought the Koran came from the word keren, horn. So in the original, illustrations, what he modeled, you can see this. Actually, this I remember from Britannica. Okay, so it's actually the original piece of sculpture. They had like a model of Moses with cow horns, Koran or Panav. So they thought he had cow horns. That's where you get the idea that Jews have horns. So, did you ever remember? Can you take your hat off? You never got that before. I was in France. A guy asked me to do it. Okay, they thought Jews have horns because it comes from Moshe Rabbeinu, so they had horns. More scummer as usual. They think Karen means an idea of a horn. It means it's a ray. Karnei Hoid, okay? So what does Karen or Panav means? So the idiot thought it still means a ray. Then he understood it was a ray, but he figures a ray like a horn. So you ever see the picture or the sculpture with Moses with two beams of light coming from his head? With a stern face holding the Luchas Abris and two beams of light going out. You never saw this? God, it's very common. So it says, that's Eichabur of Amor. Koran upon means his countenance radiated. He had a glowing face, like a Moshe Feinstein. I use him as a mushal because he was like crazy awesome. Okay? I use him very often because in fact you could see like a radiant face. It was Kulei Taira, it was Chachma stamped with Hashgachas Abadatz all over him, you understand? Okay, that's the given Koran Panav. I understand Koran Panav. His face radiated. The Chachma, the halo, the Or HaSoviv became Or HaMamala. It was internalized and transformed this whole material reality that it was nothing. It was radiating with wisdom. It permeated. It was ein shtik. Every tnuah is a sifin shulchan aruch. Every movement is a rishon and a moira. There are people like that. This is ein shtik Koran or Panav. That's what it means. So when I tell you that when I pray to God that God should give me a bracha, it should be or panim shal Kodesh Baruch Hu. What's made more panim? Chachmas Adam Torah Panav. I want them to give me chachma. That's what it means. When you say, Yivarchenu v'yor ponu v'itanu, what does it mean? He should shine his countenance upon me, which means that he should be making or upon him by us. A nice way of saying, give me chachma. So the Or HaSoviv, that which eludes me in understanding, it hovers above me but cannot internalize. That's actually what the saints have. It's what you call a light which is above me but not internalized. In Tanya, it describes something I can experience but not understand. And she describes, that's what he uses the term Or HaSoviv, Kemashal, a light which hovers above you but can't, you don't have the kalim for it to come in. You have an intuition. I feel good about this. Did you ever have that? I feel good about this work. Can you tell me why? That would be tedious. Okay, you feel good about certain things. It's very sitra de nukva, very intuitive. It's a halo people. The chachma in Torah is supposed to come from the halo is supposed to become part and parcel, internalized, become something you can be type, you can be magdir. It should become part of what you are. So you say this in siddur every day. The two things which were given with more upon him are what? Are Shirish HaChachma and Shirish HaMidas. Teres Chaim B'Avos Chesed. That's it. Not like here. As far as Avos Chesed, I'm going to learn Mitzvah Nevuchim in another week or two. We'll explain that part. But the Teres Chaim is obvious. So this is what it says. Yivarchenu, you're upon him. It says a bakasha for das. That's it, that's what this is. It's a bakasha for das. Okay, so what das do you want? So I'll roll it by parody. What das does one want? I repeat, the Yisrael Pashit, Stam Bracha is hashpah of atzmis of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. What is the ultimate atzmis of a Kadosh Baruch Hu? It's in his Torah that the Gemara on Shabbos. I know nafshikas af yaif. I've explained multiple times how the Tanya writes. In Perek Gimel and Perek Daled also, the ultimate Dveikos HaKadosh Baruch Hu is when his Chachma gets into your mind and becomes part and parcel of how you think. That the ultimate Dveikos HaKadosh Baruch Hu is understanding a shtikl Gemara b'yun. I mean, real yun. That the thought process becomes internalized. So that's why I always tell you, you have to have clarity. You don't have clarity, you're missing the major piece. His machshavos are not in your head. Be'erech doesn't do it, without going into a mashal and an imshal, there's things, either you're connected or you're not, okay? It's as simple as that. There's no like, be'erech. Like someone told me she's like pregnant. That means she gained weight. So it means, but she's not pregnant. There's no such thing as like connected. You either are or not, okay? So if the connection is to the chachma, either the chachma is connected or not connected. Very simple. That's why clarity is the ikar nekuda here, and that's what the Rebbe writes in the Likutei Torah. I told you 100 times. L'havin is a sugya al burya, michol tzad michol pina. That's the lashon of the Rebbe in the Likutei Torah. That is the dveikos HaKadosh Baruch Hu. To understand a sugya al burya, that's what he writes over there in the Likutei Torah at the end in Parshas Tzav. The same idea. So this is your part of eternal self. Now I understand what I want. Which chachma do I want? B'kama, b'matziyah, b'basra. What are you asking for? So what's the next pasuk? You know what that is? You are now asking that which Moshe Rabbeinu asked and got an interesting answer. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to He wanted the key to history. Yirmiyahu had the same problem. David HaMelech, I just told you, a whole book called Eof on that topic. Tzadik v'ralei, Rasha v'tovlei. And anybody who does anything with Jewish education, but real education, understands that a major impediment, which doesn't allow people to recognize the oneness of God, is because the fact that history there's much less, there isn't that much of the good God in history, there's much more of the guy which is angry and vengeance. Go to the local hospital. Go to the cemeteries. Learn Jewish history. You have to understand, you guys are living in a crazy, beautiful era where Jews are actually, prosperous and happy comparatively. Like there's no pogrom Monday and Thursday. We're doing pretty good, thank God. And even then, I hate to say it, when Yom HaZikaron comes around, there's what to think about. You know, the wall there in the Mizrach is there, and I happen to know quite a few of them. That's here. No one's going to give that away. That's where we are. This ain't by shame but mace in this country. This is a reality. We have to remember that. So I always say, 1 minute. So, you know, it's a major issue. And it's because of that the Chazal say that people think there's like two gods, the good God and the bad God, remember? Now it's not. No, today people look at God as if there are two of them. There's the God of Teva Meitiv and the God of Dynamis. Where do you think in pagan worlds all this paganism happened of a duality? Because they couldn't see extreme opposites merging into one. You had the good God and the bad God. This is a major theme in Persian of it is, or in Egyptian of it is, or in Greek of it is, or Seder. The different koiches, you have the good guys and the bad guys, and they're fighting on the Olympus. Or if you're in Odin and his chevron in Norway, it doesn't matter. It's all one big, the same idea. Okay? Yeah, of course. There's Hades, you know, and there's a machlekes, and it's a good, you know. The black hats and the white hats, okay? That's what you have. Like I remember in the old television programs in the 50s, so Lone Ranger wore a white hat, and anyone that was a Russian was wearing black. You know, it's very black and white reality. That's what it looked like, because, you know, you didn't see complexities in those days. So you should know that the biggest Kitzur Moshe Rabbeinu asked, when he had the time to ask, the biggest question in history, and that's what he wanted, Hareinu Drachecha. What did Kodesh Baruch Hu answer him? Well, according to Rambam, he gave him a lot, but he couldn't give it all because it's impossible of a nefesh with a guf. But if you read, I don't want to sound terrible, but if you read Pshuta Shel Mikra, if I may, God says, Ra'ises achara pani lo yiro, you won't know foresight, but I'll teach you the Jewish gift of hindsight. Yeah, you'll be able to analyze. Hindsight, we're very good. Jews are very good. Parshanim politim lachar ha'maaseh. Okay? Achara yiru. It's a shame. It's a nice way of saying it's a mystery. It's a mystery which is actually, and when you pray every day for undoing that mystery, as I taught you before, that's exactly what the Gemara says, what you're praying for. So what you're asking for, you want wisdom to understand God, the key of history. And if you learn the Gemara in Pesachim, you understand the only way you will understand the key of history, if you have a very profound understanding in what the word God means. And we mentioned that in a previous class, that's what the Gemara says. At that point of time, when we'll have the key of history, we will be able to articulate the word Yud, K, Vav, K. Beforehand, we cannot articulate it. Why? Because we don't understand it. This is the biggest side by Yiddishkeit. You don't say things you don't understand. Do me a favor. Haber son of Kodesh Baruch Hu. He hates lip service. Okay? You don't call me by a name you don't understand. You're calling me Gadol, know what the word means. You call me Gibor, what do you mean? Hulk? What do you mean when you said Shemona Esrei? Well, figure it out, because that's what that keep your freaking mouth shut. We discussed this on Purim. We brought the Gemara that because they didn't chap Gadol Gibor V'Naira, so they refrained from saying it the period of time. Until the time of Mordechai Esther, which they understood it, they reinstituted. Remember we learned that on Purim? Same idea. So the call is we will only be able to articulate Yud Kei Vav Kei when we understand it. When we understand it, we will be saying Tova Meitiv on history. So what you're asking here is, you mamish want to know the Yar part of the Das Elokim of the highest level to have a key to history. What for? Interesting. Weiter. What for? So the pasuk continues. What for? Yeducha amim Elokim, Yeducha amim kulam. When people will understand you enough to have the key of history, then we'll actually admit to you. Haidah, we all know, comes in two words. It says admit existence. B, thank you. Because every thank you is also a confession of dependency. But here it doesn't mean thanking you. It means admitting to you. That's some of the milsa. What David is saying here, people have a hard time accepting monotheism because they have a hard time accepting a monotheistic God in a complex history. Tzaddik v'Rala, Russia v'Toiv, you didn't grow up in that world. I did. I saw multitudes of Jews walking away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu because of the Holocaust. Multitudes and multitudes of Jews. walked away because of the Holocaust. Tzaddik v'raloi was a big, it's a burning issue. So what you're saying here, the Mashiach is, David HaMelech is telling you, pray that we should have Das Elohim, not me, the world should have Das Elohim, for the world to recognize Ki HaMalchus Shochil, Elimatim B'chavod. V'yeda Kopul Katof Alta, that's what you're asking for. Now go to the other prayer. So if you look carefully at this prayer, this is the prayer of God, give yourself to us. That's called Shir. Come to me, extend yourself, give yourself. I want to have a sense of closeness, of comfort, of knowledge. That's the Shir. Now go to the other prayer, and the way to read the other prayer in the chiastic structure is you take the last pasuk and go inward. So now go to pasuk 7, then 6, and then 5, and you'll see that prayer too ends with the same pasuk of Yiduch Am Elokim. So now we'll go to the last pasuk and go inward. What's the last pasuk? Last pasuk is Yivarchenu Elokim, parallel to the Yichanenu V'Yivarchenu, or the first pasuk. V'yiru Eisel Ka'av Se'aretz. Now, in other words, if beforehand we wanted a shefa of godliness, which would express closeness and knowledge and giving, now I want a certain a knowledge which will give me a sense of awe and distance. I want to experience awe and distance. I want to really be in awe of God. So I need a bracha, once again, some giving of God, some expression of God, which will not give me, wow, how close you are, but actually show how profoundly far you are. Now, the Rambam in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah Perek Beis Taka points out, very interesting thing. The Rambam writes that, how do you get Ava and Yira? She says, you look at the same exact thing. Chachmasai is Bruah of a Maisav on Nifloim. And you see two things. On one hand, you see the enormous Chachma, and you're dying to know more. That's Ava. On the other hand, you realize that you're his Lashon, Beria Ktana Shfela Afela, Mul Tmim Deis. You feel so small. You feel like a cockroach compared to the enormity of the wisdom of God. And that's Yira. So that same Hizbainus is moiled a taiva to know more, and a deep recognition that you is nothing more than a roach. And the language is very, very sharp. Biryak tanash feila afela. They couldn't be lower than that. Lifnei tmim deot. That's his lashon. Look it up. Okay? So the Abba and Yira are two expressions of the same Hizbainus. So now here we have an interesting, beforehand I wanted a God which I understand, which is the God of Ava. Now I want a God which I feel so in awe of. Now, what is the God which is so, what part of information would be so, what would give me that sense of awe? So here, he quotes the pasuk, Eretz Nasna Yevula, I'm going backward, Eretz Nasna Yevula, Yivarchenu Elokim Elokeinu. So the Baal HaKedah points out a pasuk in Yirmiyah, in the very beginning, you have to find it here, for goodness sakes. Where's that pasuk in Yirmiyah? 1 minute. Yeah, the pasuk says in Yirmiyah, oh, it's a really unbelievable pasuk. Can you get me a Yirmiyah? It's right next to the Chumashim. It's really a beautiful pasuk. It's not one pasuk, it's a few psukim. Yeshayahu, Yirmiyah, they go together? Probably second volume. No. You weren't going to give me a cross that is. Okay. It's Yirmiyah Perek Hey, right? Perek Hey Pasuk Chav. I don't know, see, this is something I personally experienced because I like traveling and seeing nature. Okay, and you have to think to yourself, like, what do you feel? What are your emotions if you're a religious person when you see, I don't know, you see that leaky faucet called Niagara Falls, or you can go to Zimbabwe and see Big Falls. You know, Big Falls is Big Falls. You know what I'm saying? Or when you see, like 80 Cape buffalo rolling, you know what I mean? Or you go to the Serengeti and you see a migration. You see like 1,000 elephants. You go, wow. You wow, you feel small. And like, this is awesome. It really is awesome. And did you ever try like just looking into a telescope and understanding what's happening there? I don't know about you, my feelings are awesome. I feel very awesome. When I encounter science, I feel unbelievably awesome. Why? Because I see so much more than I can grasp, and I know whatever I'll know is nothing because there's always going to be more. Anybody who reads about science reads that the great discoveries of yesterday are already covering fish in the market because there's something new happening already. In the last 60 years, there's been such an accelerated pace of discovery that's mind. I still remember when someone first told us about DNA, I thought it was Greek mythology. You're crazy. No one thought it was real, okay? All of a sudden, my little kids know about it. Cheder kids, God almighty. It's Ma'asim Chol Yom. I remember when I'm pretty good with these machinery, but I used to be afraid to bite my fingers off. Mein Eineklach, what's the problem? That's the way it works. You have to chop that. It's the more we know we don't know. We always know there's more. The question is not anymore, will there be new discoveries? The question will only be, how fast and with which tools? It's an unfolding mystery, and it's endless, so it's very awesome. Because you really know a lot, but it's mamish tachas hayediyah sheneda shelo nida. Ultimately, what we know is nothing compared to what we can know more. Just see, okay, we're doing well in biology, we've moved to cosmology. We're going to figuring out the universe and the galaxies. This is uncharted. We're still like Keilu Columbus, out there. And there's so much and so much more, and the tools are developing. It's awesome. As much as you feel knowledge, you feel small against Birya Ktana Shveila Multmim Deim. So the pasuk says in Yirmiyah in Perek Hey, describes as follows. Here it is. Hagida Zois Beis Yaakov, Vashmiua B'Yehuda Limor, Shimuna Zot Am Sachal Ve'ein Lev. Listen, you idiots. Very blunt, this prophet. Einayim Lehem V'lo Yiru. They don't know how to read. Oznaim Lehem V'lo Yishmu. They don't listen. It's just like my students. They don't know how to read and they don't listen. That's the way it is. Ha'oti lo tiro. Me, you're not in awe of. Nu'um Hashem. Imi panai lo tachilu. For me, you're not trembling. You're crazy. Why? Why should we naturally tremble? So he says, Asher samti chol gvul layam. I create the laws of nature, man. Did you ever notice what happened in the Pacific not long ago when all of a sudden the water decided not to stop at the shore? It was called a tsunami. Okay? You know what happened in New Orleans? When the dams went? Yeah, well, the river wasn't listening to the shore. It went over. Okay? Don't you realize it's crazy to understand how the science is such that those waves break before the shore? And when God chooses not to let that break happen, tragedies happen. Aren't you know? Now, today we probably knew more about it than we all knew. That's the truth. But the more we know, we still know how unbelievable, crazy, and synchronized it is, and it's frightening to think a small change, and bingo, when a tsunami happens. It's actually a question of currents. There's more warmth versus cold in certain places. It makes this whole balagan, and that's what happened. It's something frightening to think. That did this, yeah, that did this. The idea of the domino effect or the butterfly effect that they call in science, it's for real. It's taka for real. It's like such an intricate, enmeshed web that the smallest imbalance in it changes the whole equilibrium. That's awesome. If you the engineering in such a reality is crazy awesome. So I can say today from a 2018 standpoint, Yirmiyahu, he actually did, he knew so much about the science. He knew sciences because the Navi's supposed to know a lot. Yeah, but what could he know at the time? The amount that was available at the time. Wow, and when you want to be frightened of God, just think, Asher lo shamti chol gvul layam chok olam. This is the order. V'lo yavrenu. Vayizgashu, and the waves will tremble and go high. V'lo yuchalu. Hamu galav v'lo yavrno. The waves will make noise, but they will not pass that gvul. Ul'am hazeh haya lev sorer moreh sor v'yelechu. V'lo amru v'vavam niranat Hashem Elokeinu. What's the God we should be frightened of? Hanotem geshem v'yoreu malkosh bi'ito. Shvuot chukot katsir yishmar lanu. It's the God of seasons. The God of summer, fall, winter, spring. The God of harvest and of growth. Mamish, what he described. If you live in the farm and agriculture, it's like the Gemara says, Emunah zeh seder zroim. Why? Because the farmer, he knows the limits of what he can do, and then he goes and prays for rain, because that's it. That's why Seder Zroim is called Seder Emunah. And the pasuk in Yeshayahu, B'hoya Emunah Setecha Chosn Yeshuz Chacham V'das. Emunah is the Seder Zroim. Because the farmer realizes once you're close to nature, you mamish see that God's awesome, and you have very little to do. You can pray, you can till, you can toil, then it's up to the boss. That's it. Okay? This is what he said in the Furush. He says, how can you not be awe of God just looking at nature? This is it. This is my achana for Elo, was this Perik. So the reason, why you're callous? Your sins made you so callous that you're not aware of the obvious. Our sins make us callous and lack of sensitivity. Natural sensitivity, straight near Mayo, should tell you as soon as you look at nature, you should stand in front of God. There you have it. So if I want to go back to the Perik in Tehillim, when the Perik in Tehillim says, I want a Hashefa Elokus, which will generate Yira, the answer is I want to see God in nature. And that's the pasuk where it says, Eretz Natna Yevula, the land gives its bounty, which is now Katsir. This is the time of Katsir that we're talking about. Ktsir Chitim and Ktsir Sairim, because from Pesach through Shavuos. Yivarchenu Elokim Elokeinu. This is a bracha from God our Lord. And I want to be able to see God gift in nature. So what's the tefillah here? God, give yourself to us that we should have yira by expressing yourself, God awareness in the natural world I live in. In the Ksira, in the Zriya, in the Geshem, and all of that. This is mamish what you're asking for. So if the right side, I'm going to say it again, the right side is, as the Malakeda pointed out, that's the God of philosophy, Hatzlochas HaNefesh. That's Yediyas HaHistoria. What's the left side? That's Ein Chanami. Now we're talking about the Gashmias, which is small, which is the auxiliary. But even then, I want to see God in that temporal reality, because that's Ma'ilid Yira. So you have the right side is Ma'ilid Ava, that's your Shir, and your left side is Ma'ilid the Yira, that's the Mizmar. One is understanding the God of philosophy, or rather the God of essence, or history, if you want to call it, the Madua Derech Hashem Sleicha, and all that, answering Eov's questions, answering Yirmiyahu's questions, answering Moshe's Bakasha, and the left side is basically trying to see more of God in what we call Shechina, what we call God in the life that we experience, the life of science. I would say the God of history is on the right side and the God of science is on the left side. Because the God of history is a philosophical issue, purely abstract. The God of science is actually trying to understand God in the world of Gashmis that I live in. The Gashmis is smile. It's the peripheral. It's the secondary. It's the tool to attain the Ruchnius. What's the goal there too? The same thing. The goal is Yeducha Am Elokim, Yeducha Am Kula. That's the goal. And if you want people to totally accept monotheism in the most perfectest way, they have to be able to have the key to science. They have to have the key to history, Yediyas Elokim, which will give them the key to history. And you have to have an acute awareness of God in the natural life that we live, which I call the God of science, but actually means the God expressed in day-to-day life. In summer, fall, winter, spring, seasons, currents, etc., as Yirmiyahu described, okay? Shvuos, Chorish, V'kotzer, etc., Kshamim, all that. Those are the other side. Those are the two prayers. No, those two prayers are a prayer, I repeat, not for Yidden, but for the world. So it says, Yeducha Amim Elokim, Yeducha Amim Kula. It's an unbelievable prayer that we want. Matakiv, Molo Or Das Hashem, Kemaim Liyam Mechasim. We want people to be made to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through Ribui Das of Torah, of Chachma, of Yedias Elokim, and Ribui Das of awareness of God in the laboratory, in the science, and in the daily expression. The ultimate goal for this all is one thing only. It's so interesting what we want. We don't just want cerebral awareness. We don't just want Yeducha, which means I acquiesce, I agree. We want this to become so vivid and real they should be content and fulfilled. We're looking for man to finally be happy. People ask me this question. You want to be happy? You want happiness will kick in when we have the key of history and when we see God in day-to-day life. And that's how you end the major theme of this, Yismechu v'yirannu le'umim. They will be happy and they will sing. Why? Ki tishpot amim mishor. They really realized that everything you did is straight. It wasn't crooked. It was shvita mishor. Yashrus. Kudi Hashem yishorim b'samchei lev. I want to tell you something. The halacha is we don't learn Torah on Tisha B'Av. Not because the din of Avelis. That's another halacha. The din of an avel, not learning Torah comes not. There's no din of Torah. It's a halacha of heyanek doim. Where it says you're supposed to mourn in silence. And since stam dibber is dibata bam v'levidvar b'telim, that's why you can't learn, because that's dibber. You're supposed to be quiet. People think we're not going to learn, but they chat away stories by a shiva house. It's learn the Taisus already. If you're going to chat Taisus. Nishkin din in Torah. It's Allah of open up a Gemara. It's a Gemara of heyaneg doim. You're supposed to mourn in silence. It's not for, oh, did you see the picture? Wasn't he cute? That's all like correlation of relationship. Okay, if you see how real Bnei Torah is, you'd understand it's different. Okay, that's the way it is. Okay, heyaneg doim, that's the halacha. In Tisha B'Av, there's no din of heyaneg doim. That's it's an Avelu Yishana, and there's no din of heyaneg doim. So as far as that's concerned, you can learn. I'm saying this for a purpose because one day you'll know when you learn halachas, it'll make differences. There's no din of heyaneg doim in Tisha. You can chat. We chat. Okay. What do you do though? Why don't you learn Torah in Tisha B'Av? It's another halacha because it says Pekudi Hashem Yishor M'Samchei Lev. So what is that M'Samchei Lev? It's because it's sharp chachma. What does the pasuk say? What makes you happy? What makes you content with Pekudi Hashem? Because they're Yishorim. Right? The pasuk we said over here, Ki Tishpoit Amim Mishor. In Tisha B'Av, in the time of the Churban, when everything was a big daina emes not tov ha'meitiv, we had a hard time of saying Pekudi Hashem Yishorim. Because there was a big problem with the Pekudi Hashem Yishorim, that's what we didn't read to learn them. Pekudi Hashem Yishorim M'Samchei Lev, I don't see the Yashrus at the moment. That's the Chsor. There's a race in the Yashrus. Okay? That's the Meineh of Torah and Tisha B'Av. I want you to chapa. One day we'll talk about it maybe. Yeah, it's another halacha, not the novelis. It's another halacha. The Yashrus of Torah M'Samchei Lev. But I'm now living in a world with maybe that the Svar of Shoshanoich is Yosher, but the Torah of Kitish with Am Mishor is not Yosher at the moment. And the prayer is Kitish with Am Mishor. When we have Simcha, when we will be at Kitish with Am Mishor, when Pekudi Hashem will be Yishorim, also in history. They say Svar, but Kama Yosher, it's very nice. I need a shtickle Pekudi Hashem Yishorim, Kitish with Am Mishor in my life. And that's the problem. So the simcha of Yashrus of Torah is a steerer to the Yashrus of the Anhaga B'Shas Avelis of the Churban. That we say Daina Emes, we don't say Tov HaMeitiv and Tisha B'Av. We're waiting for that. So it's a hard time of dealing with the Yashrus of Torah when at the moment I don't see the Yashrus of the Anhaga B'Kadosh Baruch Hu. So this is what it says here. So we're actually praying for the world. We're praying. People ask me, can you be content, happy? You know what? The only happiness you can have if you realize this is the roadmap, and what you're doing is going to get you to the ultimate contentment of the world. So you should be happy. You're doing the right thing. You're doing something which will bring you to the ultimate happiness of happiness. For me, that makes me happy. Makes me happy. I'm doing something meaningful. I'm actually bringing the world closer to the real happiness. Real happiness, Pasuk says, Oziyam al-Ischak Binu, ul-Sharein Arena. Forget the Gemara says, Osalam Aleph Pif Schak Bailam Hazeh. What are you jumping about? We haven't gotten there yet. We sing on the road, because we know we're on the road. So I'm happy I'm on the road. You know, it's also something, you know. Yeah, you sing on the road, but you always sing on the road because this is the road to ultimate happiness. It's like the yellow brick road. Okay? We finally get to where we get, and the people walk and smile. Okay? So this is what this is. So this is this parak. You can now understand how this is the coat of arms of King David. Anybody knows anything about Tanakh and the life of King David? An unbelievable, complex person, which had the ultimate closeness to God and the ultimate distance from God. Read Tehillim. Read Tehillim. Read about his pitfalls. Read about his failures. Oh, you can read Navi for the failures, man. Try Nasan Navi, what he has to say to him. Woo-hoo. Or there's a parak in Tehillim about that. I mean, he did not mince words. He had a lot to say to him. Like, called him a murderer. I told you once, we learned the din of Shammai Hazaken holds Yesh Liach Dvar Avera. Where do we learn it from? From David HaMelech, which is called a murderer. Because he set up Bathsheba's husband, Uriah Hittite, to be killed. We called Oisei Haragta B'cher Bnei Ammon. You're the murderer. And when we can, the Gemara says in Kedushin, Yesh Liach Dvar Avera. Machlekes Beisham Beisil. That's how Beishamai hope, and that pasuk. Yesh Liach Dvar Avera. It says Oisei Haragta B'cher. It's a nice way of saying David was a murderer. So okay, you understand. The man was very far. Man, and I'm not going there now today because that may take me a place where without Achon I can't teach this well. It's dangerous, but he had a dark side. It was a very dark side. If you read Navi and Yuchab, I don't know if you read. If you read Navi and Yuchab, or you read Chazal. We all know one Chazal, Loi Chota, Loi Chota. What about the other Gemaras? And they said, Machlekes and Amarayim, you know, there's one day in Gemara in Ksubas that he was Beilan Eishes Ish, and we're not sure why she wasn't Asur in him. Taftes. And the answer is not very compelling. The answer is, yeah, I know there was a get al tonight, and this is not exactly I wouldn't tell the story about Ramesh Weinstein. You know what I mean? I don't know if you read your Navi, read the Navi. You don't need me, you read the Navi. You ask what happened there, and you read it carefully. And who had a child and it was died, etc. Read it. There was a dark side, but that dark side led to the most beautiful person, I think, almost in Jewish history. Ad Kedei Kach, the pasuk says, "V'libi cholol b'kirbi," which means to say, as Chazal say, he killed his Yetzer Hara, totally had no Yetzer Hara, done. Man, that's big. That's heavy, you know. Coming from where he was coming, I would say very hot-headed, passionate, redhead, you know, into awesome, frightening awesome, frightening, not human awesome. And it's very clear that there was big emotions, there was a lot of love. Did you ever read his last will and testament? Try reading it. It doesn't actually look like much of an ethical will there. Wipe him out, kill him, make sure it's hard. You know, that's what it sounds like. You know, Yodecha damim milei. At one end, the Nasan tells him, Yodecha damim milei, your hands are full of murder. You know, he's close and he's far, and he's close and he's far. He's one big mizmor shir. He's one big, close to God, unbelievable, and one hand feels very far. If you read Tehillim, you see how he describes how he feels far. He's in a ma'ora, he's in a cave, he's far, it's dark, and yet I know you're always with me. The emotions of King David were, I'm far, but I'm so close. If you read Tehillim, maybe I should do this one day, just take a few kapit off the shoulders, and you can really understand why this surah is the coat of arms of David. It's the seesaw and the merging of Ava and Yira, of remoteness and closeness, of darkness and of light, and actually ultimate content, happiness, and fulfillment. I think that should be enough for the evening. Have a good night.